Hi guys, this is Uma Shankar and today we are going to discuss about the REST API HTTP methods and those corresponding status code. So we will be covering and with a detailed explanation. I will start with one by one. So to start before those are what are the HTTP methods? So we have HTTP methods are mainly which are using and widely in the industries. So these are the HTTP methods. We have post HTTP method and get HTTP method and put or patch HTTP method and delete HTTP method. For these HTTP methods, corresponding status code should be where there are various status codes, right? Like we have the 200 series success status codes, and then we have the another 400 series client error success client errors, and there is another one 500 series server errors. So these are the various status code. So to start with one by one, for which status code falls into the which HTTP method, we'll be start with the detail. I will also show in the code implementation in the Spring Toolsuite. After showing the code, I will also show you the example how to execute what kind of execution in the Postman. To start that, let's start with the first one. So everyone aware on that basically for any development, so they are using the CRUD operations. So we can call it as a in the SQL. So whatever I'm saying in the SQL, they will call it a CRUD operation. Those are nothing but a create, read, and then update, delete. So these are the operation we are calling it as CRUD operation, and for which CRUD operation is mapped with the which HTTP method. So that I will start here. So let's take an example of the post. For the post, creating a new resource or inserting a new record. For that we'll be using the inserting a new resource. We can call it as a resource. Resource is the best word to in the REST development. So we can call it as a resource. To insert a new resource, for that we will be using the post. So let's take various example. Let's take we'll take one or two examples for a registration purpose. Let's say we have like a reservation for any railway reservation and bus reservation, so that there we are entering some of our information. For that, once we register the our information, that information has to be stored into the database for various transaction purpose or various references we'll be using, right? So for that, even in the industry, there are some of the employee information. That employee information, when the new employee is joining into the organization, that information has to be stored into the database for the future references, various purpose. Having said that, so for that people are using the post. That corresponding CRUD operation is the create. Okay, so these are the thing. And also these HTTP methods, what are the HTTP status codes are available? These are the HTTP status codes. For that, we have like various HTTP series or like various status code series. In that we'll be mainly using the 200 series, and then 400 series status code and 500 series status codes. So in that widely using in the REST API development. And these are the listed things like we have 200 okay, 201 created, 202 accepted, 204 no content, and 400 series are 400 bad request, 403 forbidden, and 404 not found, 405 method not allowed, 415 unsupported media type, and 500 series status codes are internet server error 500, 503 service unavailability. These are the status codes I will cover in detail by executing in the Postman. Okay, and also this corresponding REST API method implementation for that. Okay, I will start each one by one. For that, for any REST API development, okay, they will be using the mainly base, of course, each industry they are following the different tools, technologies, but I'm not going to cover all the other stuff, but these are the main minimum basically important. Okay, for that people are widely using in the REST API development. These are the tools and like various tools, database, and for deployment purpose or building purpose. So these are the tools. The tools are best minimum. First one is a JDK, of course. So they can use a JDK of either 1.6x or 7 or 8 or above JDK. So for my demo purpose, I am showing the JDK. I am using the JDK 1.x. Okay, and the development I am using the Spring Tool Suite. We can call it as a STS for executing those REST development. So I'm using the Postman. For the database, there are people are using many database. So I don't know exactly how many data, but as I know, since I have experience of this database, we could use the Oracle database, a Cassandra database, Snowflake database, and MySQL database. For the demo purpose, I'm going to use the Oracle database. And then for a deployment, since I do not have the cloud access, I cannot show the demo for a cloud. But to deploy these microservices, people are using in the industry, PCF, they will be call it as a pivotal cloud foundry, where all the microservices they will be deploying. Of course, they might be using for a cloud. They will, some of the people they will be using the Google. Some of the people they might be using the microservice, Microsoft and Amazon. But as I know, some of the people are using PCF, pivotal cloud foundry, for deploying any microservices. And after deploying the microservice, so for security purpose, they are using the one more layer security purpose. They are using the APG. The people are called as APG. So this is one more. This combination should be required for any REST API development, and I do not have it. So, but what are the tools purpose I'm exploring here? I'm explaining here. And for deployment purpose, since it's a cloud deployment, so to deploy that, this code, what are the all the microservices, microservices, so services, a microsite is nothing but a front-end people, right? Like HTML, JavaScript, and various they might be using React.js. Some of the people they might be using front-end for AngularJS. So they will be call it as they will call it as a microsite. So for deploying all these things bundled together to deploying, they will be using for the Jenkins. So even I cannot show this Jenkins deployment and all. So for having said that, for deployment for tools and list only, I'm explaining here. So Jenkins they will be using, and for build. For any build for microservice, they can use Maven build or Gradle build. For demo purpose, we are using the Maven. So let me explain for the demo what are the things I'm using here. I'm using for the demo JDK 1.8 and Spring Tool Suite and Postman. Database is Oracle, and then build tool is Maven. So everything I'm showing in the local development only. This is about tools and high level. And to start with that, for a demo, I'm using the insurance model. So why I'm calling as a model? So this is a purpose of I have one bean class. We can call it as a bean. So this is for any performing crude operation. Having said that, for all the crude operation, these are the attributes or these are the fields I'm going to taking an example. Okay, policy number, insurance title, insured first name, insured middle name, insured last name, insured date of birth, insured phone number, and insured email. I'm taking this example and I will start showing those CRUD operation one by one example. So this is about high level. Let me start with the code with the STS. How does it looks like? So this is my STS, and here I am using this is my STS. So this is a REST API. So my project I call it as a policy-API. This is my REST API. REST API I'm using, and these are the this is we can call it as a controller. I think everyone aware on it, and that particular dependencies everything. Since I'm using Maven, all the Maven dependencies I have declared inside the pom.xml. So these are the dependency. Of course I cannot read it everything, each and everything. This is high level. And I wanted to tell you one more thing, in terms of the bean creation. I'm using, you can let me open any bean class. I do not have the setters and getter methods. You can see here. So this is one of the important one, but if you want I can cover it in the future, any one of the video based on your request. So you could see here I do not have any setters method and getter method. I'm using here everything is a setter annotation based. This is, we can call it as a Lombok API. This is one of the jar which could available. These setter methods and getter methods are available in the runtime. So during that time it will be having dynamic, it will be created. So no need to creating manually all the setter methods and equal hash code, everything no need to define here. You could see start with the one by one. This is my request bean, right? So you could see here. So whatever I am showing that model, those bean class, everything I have defined here. So you could see here I do not have a single setter method and getter method clearly, and everything is I'm using the Lombok API. For that we can use the @all constructor, no all constructor, field default, setter and getter. By using this we could able to enumerate the lot of code inside the Java. So we can directly start with writing our business logic. So it will reduce a lot more effort in terms of development, correct? So this is one of the best feature. Please try to use the Lombok jar so that it will be good to having. So this is about I wanted to cover one of the point. So in that, let me start with the having said that, methods, right? So this is my post method, which I am going to start with the first CRUD operation create. For that I am using, this is a post method, and this is the post mapping, and that corresponding method we could see here. This is a pretty simple. We have this one, and let me run this by showing an example, right, for demo. Let me run. So I'm starting always I'm starting with debug mode. Let me stop it here for clearly visibility. I will right click on here. So of course guys, don't forget I have the red mark here, no need to bother about it. So it's having something dependency, so no need to bother about it. So let me start with the right click on the project API, and then run Spring Boot app. I'm running with the debug mode only for best if there is an issue for debugging and everything, I use always best debug mode, my server. So here we could see here the server has been started with the port so and so. This is a port number, okay? And then once I've started, so this is my what we call this is my request mapping, right? So what is the request mapping here in the post method, in the postman collection? This is a HTTP protocol. This is the local host. This is the port number 9165, and this is a version v1 version of my API. This is a post policy. This policy is mapping with this corresponding of the controller class of the post mapping. So this, based on this only, that will going to be identified, it will run that. Let me start with that. So this is my request. So the same request only, you could see here, I'm also taking an example for the same request, and this is my request body, and I'm going to select the content type is the application JSON. This is my content type, and this is my request body. So the same request body only I am taking here. One thing you could notice here, for model I have the policy number, but here I do not have it in the request body. Why? Because this policy number I am taking as a unique key. We can call it as a primary key. So this will be generating in background dynamically, randomly, random number it will generate, and it will create a new policy. This is a unique number. This policy number is unique. That's the reason for creating a new resource, there should be one unique number, right? Unique value. That we should not pass it from the request. We cannot pass it generally. That will be creating dynamically random value. So that's the reason I'm taking this request body. You could see here, and the same request body is available here. And here I'm passing insurance title, insurance first name, insurance middle name, insurance last name, insurance date of birth, insured phone number, insured email. Okay, let me start with that. Before that, I will show what is there any data available in the database. So having said that, this is my Oracle database. So I'm using as a demo, and the schema is on the other users. I have created one schema, call it as a Shankar, and that I have two tables here. One is address detail table, another one is the main table is the infos policy. This is a table I'm using. So these are the columns I'm using. Policy number, first name, middle name, everything is underscore based on the naming convention, title, birth date, phone number, email. So let's see, is there any data available in the database? Yeah, we do not have any data in the database, Oracle database. Now let me start with going here. Let me create a new request. Let me hit Postman. You could see here. So here we have to notice two things. One is, what is my status code? HTTP status code is the, since we are performing an action create, so that is nothing but a create, right? Post is nothing but create. For that, these are the status code. So that status message, guys, this is a very important one point. For any REST API, these are the whichever I'm highlighted, that message should be mandatory. For a consumer or any user, front-end development people, they wanted to consume for anything, these are the three values are main important. One is the type, another one is the code, and then finally description. These are the values are main important to identify for any REST API. These are the values. So since it is a create, I am using the type is a create, similar to in the SQL CRUD operation create, right? And then what is this corresponding code for create? Code is should be 201. And the description, resource created successfully. This description could be vary based on they want to some of the people, some of the industries, they are following like resource. I'm using the resource created successfully, and some people they are policy created successfully, or something else like they might be record created successfully, record inserted successfully, and they might be using based on their standard, based on the agreement, service contract, they are following differently. So this description, however they want, they can use it. So I cannot comment on this, but remaining these two are important. These are the standards. Again I'm saying these are the standards. Okay, so I'm covering the this is the message, right? And that corresponding message should be something like this after creating the record. So we have to see this. policy response. So here this is a having said that previously having said that, so this is the policy number which is the primary key which is identified which is created in the background randomly. So this is a one new element, and apart from that whatever I am inserting, that all the data has been available in the response. So let me see that whether this particular record is available or not. So I am taking this policy, or else I can run the star query, select star from Shankar scheme. This is a schema, this is my schema, and this is my policy. This is enforce policy, is my table name. So let me run this query. Yeah, we could see here. So record has been created successfully. Now I have successfully covered one HTTP status code that is nothing but a 200 created. This is done. I'm going to start with the one by one status code. So I have completed I gave the demo for successfully we have covered with the 201 created with the post endpoint execution. So let me insert the another record. So here I will start with the remove test, and then first name I will start with the simple, and then F name I don't want to say that. So I'm giving some generic name. So here is the T here I'm providing, and the ensure last name, let me change it to L name last name, and the data would something like 98. Insured phone number, let me change the values here to create a 00, and then let it be the insured phone number is the test.abc domain.com I'm using. Let me hit let me hit once again in the postman, so that it will going to create a unknown record. So yeah, we have received the response with the time is a 16 milliseconds. We received the response with the 16 milliseconds. So let me verify in the database once again how many records are out there in the database. Yeah, we could see here we have 2 records are successfully we have inserted. Okay, let me start with another status code. I'm start with the flow. For that I cannot go with the one by one, so I will start with the flow, but by end of the time I will cover all the status code. Then since we have started with the post and let me start with the some of the example of the 400 series of the client error message. For that I'm going to take an example bad request series of the 400. Status code is a 400 and type is a bad request. Let me take an example. For that demo I'm going to use the same post method, and then here to show that kind of thing I have already, let me cover that in here detailedly to reduce the time frame. I have maintained Notepad++ here to show that. So this is a API error message. So see here for example, to cover that use here 400 bad request, I'm taking an example. I'm going to provide the so we have the one of the field insured phone number, right? I'm going to provide the invalid phone number. So it means that the phone number I'm maintaining the logic stating that if I'm providing the invalid phone number, something like less than 10 number, okay, or else I'm trying to provide the phone number, instead of entering the integer I'm providing some character or else some alpha numeric. That time I should throw a error message. I should return the error message something like description, invalid request parameter, issued phone number, value type of integer expected. When this use case will occur, if I'm trying to provide a alphanumeric or else a characters, that time I will be sending this is a description and that's corresponding type and code. Let me show you a demo for that. See, this is my phone number. Here I am providing the some characters. See, but usually phone number should be integer, right? So for that I am providing some character first, saying a native use case. So when I'm trying to hit this, see here, I'm getting that response. See here, the status code, HTTP status code is a bad request, and the description and that corresponding message type is a bad request, code is a 400, description is an invalid request parameter, issued parameter. Why I'm saying that? When the user by looking this description, they will come to know easily, okay, I'm giving the wrong, this insurance, this particular field, I'm giving wrong data. So what is expecting? This is expecting value of type integer. This is the type of integer type. This field is the type of integer. It's clearly showing in the description. So like this, we have to validate it. Let me do that. And if I am giving that less than the 10 numbers, this is another same use case for the phone number only. Yep. See that what kind of error message I am returning. Of course, here I am providing the numbers only, but this is not length of the 10 numbers, right? This is not having phone number having 10 elements, so 10 characters. So during that time I am displaying the same request message, but my description should be vary, right? Here what kind of description I'm providing? Invalid request parameter, phone number, and the length should be 10. This is the proper description, so that when the user, unknown person, the consumer, if they are trying to invoking my REST API, okay, that time they could easily understand that this particular phone number field is expecting length is a 10 when they're trying to provide the less than the 10 characters. You understand the use case, right? So this is how we are going to display the description. Okay, so we have covered the 400 bad request. In the similar way, we can also do the validation for the email. Of course, we could see in the so many email validation in the Google, like once we trying to search in the Google, so we could get main internet. So there are various patterns to validate the email address. So that kind of use case, we could also show something like the message is this one, and under the message, these are the 3 attributes that fields are important. So those are type should be bad request and code should be 400, description, invalid request parameter, issued email, the pattern is not supported. So this is I'm providing some kind of generic message. If you want, you can do however you want. Okay, so and the similar way for the date of birth, let's say for the date of birth, user they are trying to provide incorrect format. So we have like I'm trying to expect this is a format. So whenever I'm trying to enter my date of birth, that I'm expecting this is a format I'm expecting. Let me say example of how this is going to work, guys. For example, instead of providing different, this is I'm entering, right? So I do not have validation for this, but I'm telling example. Okay, if a user wanted to enter this kind of, so that time, of course, let me change it to DD. Okay, as per that, to maintain with that date and YYY. This is what I'm expected format. This is my expected format when the user trying to provide. If they're trying to provide the incorrect format, this is my expected error message should throw for the consumer. who is consuming this API. Okay guys, cover for the 400 bad request series, right? I have provided a few, but based on the real time their use cases, they will be having so many use cases. So we have covered the bad request use case. So you could have a doubt in it, how could I displaying all this information, right? There is no much information, so it's pretty simple. I am displaying in the controller. So here this is the first method. Here I have a validation. So let's click on here. I'm using one of the policy validate. I'm using the policy validation util. Here I am performing the validation. You could see here. So what kind of validation I'm providing? And for showing in a demo, I am taking an example of if the user is trying to enter bad request. Of course, I did not cover this. Let me cover this also. In this, I'm covering T. When the user is trying to enter without a request body, that time we should throw error. We should return the error message, something like that. Request body should not be empty. This is one error message. And also I have validated for the validation first name. When the user is trying to provide the validation without providing the first name, when the user is trying to without providing the first name, that time I am showing the message this one. So I think I will cover that one also. And then phone number, I think we already covered the phone number. So let me cover these two very quickly. So like this, everything is a hard coding. You could see here. So this is the pretty normal Java core Java logic only here. So we could pretty much write here something like this based on your business use case, business scenario. We could write it. We could see pretty much. Yeah, let me cover with that first use case. So if I'm providing empty request body, so this is main important, right? So if they are trying to show that without providing, that time we should written some proper message, reasonable proper error message. See here, bad request body should not be empty, so that they could understand the consumer. Okay, of course, for creating a resource we should provide some information like that they could understand it and they will pass the messages. And another use case, I'm going to provide the first name as a null value. So that time what kind of error message I should return for a consumer? Let's see that. For that, message should be, this is a message, and type would be bad request, code should be 400, description would be invalid request. Missing request parameter. What request parameter we are missing? User is missing in the request body. Ensure first name. So we are specifically displaying in the response, you are missing the first name. So something like that we are displaying. So that's I have written few validation only to cover 400 bad request series. That is how about pretty much for 400 bad series. So let me enter something. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10. Okay. So this is my request body. This is how about we have covered 400 bad series. Okay. Another use case I'm going to cover. Okay. 404 not found. Before starting with the 404 not found 400 battery 404 not found status code, I wanted to cover one more HTTP status code. So that is nothing but in the CRUD operation of the second operation is the create, second operation the read, and that is nothing but a get. For retrieving any data or retrieving any resource, we can also say it in the SQL select query. Okay, what we call it as select query. For that, fetching any resource, fetching any entity data, fetching any information. So we'll be using the get method. For that get method, how does it looks like? That get method of the request and response. So we could cover in the pretty much below. Yeah, this is my request. This is my request. So for that, what is required? So this is my like a HTTPS. This is a domain name. From here we will start. This is my mapping, right? So here I wanted to provide v1 on the policy. This is a mapping and corresponding policy. What policy number we should pass it, so that I can return those details. Okay. So this is a policy number. And then, okay, let me start with that any one of the policy number which is available. So let me go to the database. Or else let me do one thing. Let me insert one more record here with the same information, so that it will going to create one more record here. So I'm taking, this is a new policy number. I'm going to use this policy number here in the request body. As I shown in the notepad, how does it looks that my endpoint would be? So pretty much like this: http colon / localhost port number v1 slash policy slash. This is my policy number. When I'm providing that number, when we hit that, we could see pretty much status code is the 200, and then corresponding message. So this is my message and this is my response. So the same thing which I have shown in the request. So here what we are displaying, this is my, how does it looks like my response will be similar like that only, correct na? Message, type, code, description, policy. This is the response of the policy get API. So that is nothing but something like this. So 200 code should be, type should be okay for retrieving always as per the industry's API REST API standards. So this is my description, this is my message description. So we could say message element. So type would be okay, code should be 200, description would be resource retrieved successfully, or information, policy information retrieved successfully. So however they want, this can be vary based on their what kind of suitable action they are performing. So they could use it based on their however they want it. And the response, we are displaying policy detail. So my policy detail, just I'm providing the policy number. So that policy number, these are the details available for the get method. So for the API. So these are the pretty much about the get method. It's a straightforward, right? Having said that, it's a select query in the SQL, in the API, fetching the data, to read the data, to retrieve the data, any data. So this is about get method. Yep, for the 200 REST API standards. So this is how about we have covered pretty much about the get method. This is done. Now another HTTP status code which I wanted to cover, would like to cover is 404 not found. So when we are going to, so when, in which use case and what scenario this kind of 404 code and type should be not found, when, in which use case, in which scenario we are trying to display REST API standards. For that I'm going to cover that. Let's say I'm taking an example of the get API here. Let's say this is my get, right? So if I'm trying to provide the wrong policy number, okay, see here is the existing policy. I'm going to provide some extra which is not available, 00. I am trying 2 more characters I have provided here. When I'm trying to hit now, what should be my response? That time we could see pretty much here. Measure should be this one. This is a standard, and the type would be not found. Code should be 404, and description should be policy not found. This is the standard way of a REST API message providing. Industry standards, I'm saying 404 industry standard. but the description should be, it may vary based on what kind of operation performing. So that is what I am showing here. So that is what I am showing here is pretty much. So this is about the when the insurance policy number is not available in the database, when you are trying to look for some information, that particular resource is not available, it's not there, it's not existing in the database, that time we are displaying these kind of standards for the not found. Okay, so this is how about the pretty much for the 404, and we have pretty much covered the this status code. And then other thing which I would like to cover is 404 method not allowed. When which use case and which scenario will be displaying the 404 method not allowed in the REST API development as per the industry standards. For that, I'm going to take an example of the, so let me remove the incorrect policy number here. Yeah, this is my success message, right? To show you an example, okay, method not allowed. I'm taking an example. I'm going to take an example of get and post method. I will show you here. So I'm going to select as a put here. Okay, when I am trying to hit with the same endpoint which is available for the get endpoint. Okay, so let me hit that. See, this time my REST API, my policy API, which is telling me, okay, this method, whatever you are trying to support, whatever you are trying to execute this put method or put operation which is not available, this particular endpoint is not supported. This particular endpoint is not supported. It means that in the message we are displaying type is a method not allowed and the code should be 405, description should be method not found. So here we can vary the description, but these are the two, type and code should be mandatory. It should be follow the same standard. Once again telling that these are the standards we are across the industries REST API development following. These are the specific way people are following. Yeah, here we could see that 404 not allowed. Okay, and let me start with the another endpoint. Let me select with the patch here. When I'm trying to hit the same endpoint, yep, still we are getting the same method not allowed and code should be 405. Let me try with the same thing for the another endpoint which we already covered for the post endpoint. Here this is my request body, of course. So here I'm trying to select with the delete operation here, and let me try with here. What is the error message we'll be getting? We could see, we can pretty much observe it. 405 method not allowed. Yeah. Here also, when the trying to user performing an action upon an endpoint, that time incorrect action on an endpoint, that time we should throw this other standard way of method not allowed. Code should be 405. This is about pretty much 405. Done. So we have covered it, and the same thing I already covered for here. So method not allowed. So this is the we can call it so here to maintain easily. So I'm showing here what the status code and corresponding messages. And another status code is nothing but a 415 unsupported media type. Okay, people are, they might be doing so many plenty of mistakes when they are trying to perform an unsupported media, that I will show you here. So how does it looks like? So that is nothing but a 415. Yeah, this is another one which I'm going to cover the next one. So on which use case? Let me back to here in the same get and post. Let me select the original get only here, and this is about let me try to hit here. This is a happy path which which we are getting now. Here whenever I am trying to, when the consumer, they are selecting the, what is the content type here? The content type here is this is the content type, and the, what is the content type? We are providing application JSON. Now let's say I am trying to provide the incorrect content type. So let me remove this content type here. I'm trying to provide something invalid. So what is this here? Application Orca stream. I'm selecting the application Orca stream. Let me remove something this also. Okay, let me try with this. When I have selected, see that I have selected the content type is a wrong content type. For any REST API, maximum people are using the application JSON only. These are the standard way. But I am selected the incorrect content type. When I'm trying to provide incorrect content type, and I'm executing this get API, we could see here we should say a proper message to the caller stating that you are performing an action unsupported media type, and the code should be 415, and description be invalid request header. So why I am saying invalid is the request header, and content type is the allowed media type is the application JSON. Why I am specifying header here? See, this content type comes under the headers only. This is where which tab is available. Content type is the headers only. That is the reason I am specifically saying in a proper description to the user, so that user can, by looking on this description, they could easily understand that what kind of mistake I have done here. So that's the reason. Let me try with another HTML. So we have the text HTML, right? Yeah, I have selected the content type is the text HTML. Let me try with the same get endpoint. Let me hit it. Yep, see here, pretty much I'm getting the same message. So this is how we are going to handle the content type. So that time, this is the code corresponding message, right? You want me to cover for the even for create as I mean to say create the endpoint as well. Okay, let me select it as well for the post. This is my post, and here is let me select it something different content type. What is this? Application JSON. I don't want to show application JSON here. This time, yeah, application Austom plus XML something. I have selected some invalid content type here for the post. Let me hit it. Yep, we could see pretty much. Still, I am get the unsupported media type for the code 415 description, invalid request header, content type, allowed media types, application JSON. Okay, this is how we need to display the proper message to the caller, proper message to the consumer, or we can call it as a user who are performing an action. This is how about the 415. This is also done. Then another HTTP status code. HTTP status code 500 series. I mean, which use case? So that is nothing but a 500 internal server error. And when we are going to cover that, on what time we will be getting that use case? Use case. Let's say, example, when the user is performing or consumer is performing an action, but there would be some issue in the database server. Let's say I have performed an action this one I'm performing a get. Let me take an example of get here. I'm performing some I'm executing this endpoint. Okay, I'm invoking that endpoint, or I'm consuming service. During that time, my database was down. That time, I could not get the data from the database. In that case, for a consumer, we should not say that my database is down. Correct, which is incorrect. They cannot understand that. See, by end user, they cannot understand the technical words. Remember once again, end user, we should not display any technical terms, technical words. We should say friendly messages, user understandable messages. That only those, or else business people, any end user, any consumer, we should not display to maintain that. So that kind of use case we are displaying. This is a REST API standards is, this is a message, and type should be internal server error, and the code should be 500, and description should be something like this. I'm not saying you could provide the same description. What kind of description? Service execution fail due to internal error. I am good with this description, so I'm performing. This is a description. If you wanted to show something different message, please provide your appropriate description and use accordingly. But this is a generic message we should return for the caller. We should not say specific. This is a generic. Maximum people are using this is a generic message. So this is one example I already gave an example, right? So database down. So that is one use case. And there is another use case. So you are performing one action. That action something like some, let's say, let me take another example. So first use case, having said that, some database down, and there is another some PCF is down. So in this use case, some PCF server, okay, or this APG server, this cloud infrastructure is down. That time also we should show a generic message that is nothing but a internal server error, so that they can, consumer, they can understand that, end user, they can understand this kind of messages. I do not have any specific to show this example, to show executing in the Postman. I do not cover this one, but I'm giving a heads up how could we cover, in which scenario we'll be displaying this message. Of course I can give another scenario, but this is I guess it will be another use case. So 503, service unavailability. In that case, and which use case we'll be using? Let's say my service, due to some maintenance, okay, my either database, okay, so some maintenance issue. So my application, my get API application, my API, I am performing some maintenance activity during that time, or something different based on the use case. So I should send a message, this service, this particular service, I mean to say that this particular my service, this endpoint is not available to get the response, to respond your request. In that use case, we are going to display the standard way of message is service unavailable, code is the 503, and description is the service unavailable. If you want, you can provide some more detailed description as well based on your use case. This is how we are going to handle it. So pretty much we have covered with the 500 with an example, since I do not have proper like executing to show you, so I cannot cover this one. When we are working in real time only, then only those use cases we can cover. So at this moment I do not have it. Yep. So we have covered the service unavailable, this use case as well. And what are the other use cases are pending? Yep. So once we recall with all the other things, what are the things we have covered? We have covered only two HTTP methods, and this highlighted what are the done status of the corresponding HTTP status code we have pretty much covered. So the pending thing remaining HTTP methods are put, patch, delete. These are the three are pending. Those are nothing but a update and delete. So and those corresponding HTTP methods are accept, no content, and the forbidden. We can cover it. So we can going to cover these HTTP methods and HTTP status code in the next session. Okay, so that is not our pretty much. So you might be having some more questions how we are displaying all the other status code. So having said that, I'm using one of the utility class. There I'm based on my request. So based on what kind of request I'm checking, so that pretty much I'm covering here. Yeah, length, not validation, so on, so information, blah 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 here. Yeah, this is pretty much. Thank you. Thanks for your time. Thanks, team.